it seems like Padre fans just take so much glee in seeing the demise of the Dodgers. There's a lot going on. I mean, they got a lot of stuff to figure out.
Andrew Friedman held a very emotional press conference this week after they were eliminated by the Padres. He called it an organizational failure, the biggest disappointment in the 8 years that he has run the ball club. The fact the Dodgers, who had beaten the Padres so often over the last year and a half, got beat themselves in the postseason. And there's an enormous amount of heat. And I'm not talking about the weather and humidity and Santa Ana's. There is so much heat being directed at Dodger baseball right now for what happened. Item one, manager Dave Roberts, 100% backing from the president of the team. This was not on him. Now, I take exception to that because I think Dave Roberts and his staff of thinkers, including that pitching coach Mark Pryor, who I like both those guys, respect both those guys, but they have failed 6 times in 7 years to utilize their pitchers correctly, whether that's yanking a starter early, whether that's taking a starter and putting him in a bullpen to pitch in a critical game between a guy's regular starts, or the just gross overuse of the bullpen. Dave Roberts has done it consistently, and I think it's one of the reasons they're out. Now, there is another reason. They did not hit. Get this stat. Mookie Betts in the playoff series with the Padres, $143. Justin Turner, 157. Cody Bellinger, missing person, 147. Will Smith, 188. They left 32 guys on base in 5 games. So the bats deserve heat and criticism, in addition to what I think is the pitching mistakes by the manager, Dave Roberts. And your take?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last time. Roberts has had a disappointing season, but you mentioned last time, the analytics guys in the Dodgers front office, they're grinding through the numbers, crunching the numbers. They're giving a lot of guidance, maybe demands to Dave Roberts to manage in certain ways based on the data. So sometimes I wonder if Friedman is covering for his guy Roberts, because maybe it's Friedman's staff that's giving Roberts bad advice.
I think those guys need to stand up and say, we made a mistake. Yanking Tyler Anderson out of the last Dodger game when he had thrown 5 shutout innings and was not labored in terms of pitch count and had not been in trouble, had not had any stressful innings. Yanking him at that point and going to the bullpen in the 6th inning when you knew your bullpen had been used a lot and you knew there was another game to be played if you survived the Tyler Anderson start. Why would you ever yank the starting pitcher throwing a shutout out of the game at that point, considering there had been no stress at all? It's just a prime example of the bad decisions that they've made dating back to the first group of years that they won with Dave Roberts at the helm. The misuse, gross overuse of Brandon Morrow, the ex-Padre closer, the same thing they did a couple of years later with Joe Kelly, and then what they did with Kershaw, what they did with Scherzer, what they did with Urias, pulled them out of the rotation, made them pitch in between their starts, which meant fatigue. If I'm a Dodger fan, yeah, I think I'd be blowing hot air in the direction of Andrew Friedman. And biggest payroll in baseball. And they got taken out by the Padres. Granted, the Padres are healthy and the Padres are hot, but I don't think this should have ever happened. So, Dodger fan, they got every right to be angry, and that organization needs to figure it out, answer some questions. And they got tough roster questions that have to be answered in the coming months. Andrew Friedman said we don't need a different voice in terms of the manager. He says the biggest decision we have to make, was this baseball related or was this leadership related? Well, we just gave you the stats of the guys that didn't hit, and I've critiqued the manager, who I think has made a lot of mistakes in terms of the handling of pitching. Their batting average, runners in scoring position, San Diego series, 147.
Wow.
And they had a lot of guys on base that whole series.
Yeah,
so
they did.
It's a huge issue. They left 32 guys on base in the 5 playoff games against the Padres. Dodgers, enjoy your off season because the Padres are still playing ball.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of arrogance with that organization. And even like Bill Plaschke and some of the, writers, calling San Diego cute. They're not our rival and all that BS. And here comes the Padres and knocks them off. So as a San Diego fan, as a San Diegan, we love seeing, the big guy get a punch in the nose. But if you're a fan of the Dodgers, you've got to ask serious questions of that leadership in that organization. especially considering how much money they're spending. They're not getting the bang for the buck.
If the Padres had failed, if the Padres had not made the playoffs with this payroll, if the Padres had gotten executed in the first round of the playoffs, I'd be pretty critical of the Padres. Instead, we'll just direct the criticism up I-5 to
Right.
Dodger Stadium and Chavez Ravine.